Hey everyone, it's Ranning Blue Penguin again. Tim, back with the Omaha Club Flush Project, and I'm welcoming Braden in, one of my collaborators now. He's going to be helping me out and has decided to stop on and join me tonight. Braden, how you doing?
Doing pretty good. A little bit recovering from the blizzard. Definitely felt like my house was going to blow down after that, but
Oh,
otherwise
nothing
good.
like Midwest wind, yeah, man.
Oh God.
So, Braden, for those of you who may be familiar with him, he does a little bit of work, and you may have heard his voice on the Who Gives a Hoot podcast, the Union Omaha supporter-based podcast. There, you are a board member this year again of Omaha Parliament, and just a soccer fan in general. So, aside from that, let's go ahead and introduce yourself and let's meet you.
Oh well. If I had to like give a general idea, I'm not a soccer person. In terms of like upbringing, I was always a baseball fan, always basketball, typical American sports.
Mhm.
Uh, and then, of course, I'm sure like many people just kind of tuned into German Bundesliga with a little known American player on it. And you might have heard of him, Christian Pulisic.
Well, once or twice, yeah.
Yeah. uh, and then from there was like kind of cool. And then one day I heard Union Omaha was being founded, whatnot. I'm like, you know what? Hey, soccer's in town. And it just kind of went from there. Uh, right now, I'm just kind of like bouncing around with the soccer, kind of enjoying it as it is because it's kind of my second job, or I wouldn't even say it's a job even then. Like, yeah, I do parliament stuff, whatnot, but I enjoy every moment of that. So,
That's right. And you never work a day of your life if you enjoy the job, right? So,
yeah.
no, you do a lot of good stuff, and definitely getting your feet wet, pretty good with the Who Gives a Hoot and the coverage and everything else. So, thank you for coming on. Thank you for collaborating with me, and we'll get right into it. So, first thing we're going to talk about tonight is a little bit of the news from the Soccer Metro. So, unlike some of the other podcasts and things like that, we're not necessarily going to focus on Union Omaha. And you guys have already seen that we've done the interviews with Lenoma FC, we've done the interviews with CB Captains. So that's kind of where I want to start. Lenoma FC and CB Captains, both in the last week or so, held their open tryouts. And we're starting to see their rosters come into form. Got to see Lenoma's, and they looked like they were having a lot of fun, but a lot of professionalism out there. It was really nice. So, but we should start seeing those rosters come into form here pretty soon as the season gets ready to kick off. Have you ever tried out for anything like that? Have you ever been a part of it?
Nope, not really. Never done any like soccer tryouts.
Mhm.
So like I've only played so in terms of my age level during high school, I played 2 seasons of rec league and soccer 11v11, and then most of the time I'm playing indoor with whoever I can find a game with. So uh, tryouts not really my thing. So, but definitely respect anyone that does that because it's even at a lower level, it's still quite a physical, demanding process to do that as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And CB, they were out at the Iowa Sportsplex there, just over in Council Bluffs, and then we had the Omaha Sports Center there, where Lenoma was trying out. Beautiful facilities. Actually, ended up getting to see Union Omaha come in for some of their training while the Lenoma trial was going on, and it just kind of brought back in that it's all about community, and everybody knows everybody. Everybody's playing everybody. Everyone will pass by everybody in this soccer community at some point. So. It would not surprise me to see some of those faces still at any of the other tryouts that are up there.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, I've played at the Iowa Sportsplex for indoor rec leagues, whatnot. Never played at the Omaha one though it's like not even 2 miles away from my house. But
Yeah, yeah. We pass it all the time because you go up 144th, you can't help but dodge the potholes, which is probably why I couldn't, never bothered to look over and see it. But yeah, the proximity of all of this stuff is boding really well for soccer in the area. But one of the things that really struck me, an anonymous person, I will not say who, during the course of these last 2 weeks, have actually said that some of our players that you get at off the wall in the indoor, he said probably could give the Kings a run for their money. I don't know if you've experienced that with some of the skills you see out there.
I mean, it's hard to say sometimes because like yeah, play indoor and like yeah, I'll play like whatever level, and like sometimes these people are way above my level in terms of my very rudimentary skill set, but I mean, at the same time, especially with the Kings, I respect all those players. I know they've had former Union Omaha players,
Mhm.
trialists, and all that, so they definitely know what they're doing. But if you want to get a full team to try and beat the Kings, I'd say you're probably going to need a little bit more than that.
No. And I will trust you on that. We'll get to the Kings here in a moment, but to kind of illustrate what kind of people they're looking at, and some of the people I had a couple of sound bites that I got from some of the players. So this first one here, another Braedon. This one is Braedon Wright. Braedon Wright. I'm sorry. He's a junior, going to be a senior this year. Plays at Midland, but he's a high school at Millard North. So he's a local kid here for Omaha.
Okay.
And they invited him out to the tryout, and here's what he had to say about it. So here we are with Braedon. Braedon, thanks for coming out. What made you interested in trying out with Omaha today?
Yeah, as an Omaha kid, I've always looked forward to playing at the next level, and I'm excited to maybe give it a shot and see what we can do here at Villanova.
Okay. Where are you now as far as
Right now, I'm at Midland University.
Okay.
I'm going to be a senior next year.
Okay, so kind of the right time to figure out the transition and try to get in there. What can you tell me about the environment that Harry and Jordan and Mark have put towards this club?
I love Mark. I've had Mark. Blessing to have him for 3 years before I went to college, and he prepared me and taught me everything I know. So there's not a better person to take control of the team.
And how excited is it that not just Winoma, we got 3 teams in the Midwest Premier League now that are going to be starting up in the Omaha area. How excited are you to get on maybe with the team and see that happen?
I think it's great for Omaha. Omaha's produced great talent through the past 4 or 5 years. So it's the perfect opportunity for kids to come out and play and show Omaha, put them on the map.
Right, and keep them coming to the tryouts.
Yes, sir.
So that was Braedon Wright. He's forward out of Midland. Trialist there with Lenoma for that one. Would not be surprised if he went to some of the other tryouts as well. And I really like the fact that he local kid and super excited, and he's just hitting into that what probably would be graduating academy level, maybe finally starting to get first team reps if you're looking at kind of the overseas leagues and everything else like that. And here he is trying to get on with the semi-professional team.
Yeah, so the nice thing is that the general Omaha area is pretty good in terms of not just it's a decent soccer community and the fact that everyone knows each other, everyone sees each other, but just we have 2 Division I programs for college. We have Midland, which already has a great program for soccer, as well as Iowa Western, which they've won a couple national championships as well. And then, of course, it's just anyone that has seen Nebraska State soccer for high school, not just the fact that the players are into it, but everyone's into it with filling up Morrison Stadium on Creighton's campus. So I'd say the main thing is the fact that just having enthusiasm for anything like that, anything new or anything growing within it is probably the biggest thing more than anything. I'd put it for that.
Yeah, and kind of on that, we would be remiss if we did not mention Bellevue University, and they're nationally ranked in the NAIA, which people say it's not NCAA. NAIA is still a legit league for soccer, at least in the college. And Mark Preston Heath, who is the Bellevue University coach, is also going to be the Lenoma FC coach this year. So I think we've got a lot of exciting stuff, kind of like you said, and they all seem to know each other.
Oh yeah, absolutely. When I first saw that Lenoma had made that hire, I'm thinking, well, they definitely know who to go for in terms of Omaha local knows at least how to get talent to Bellevue. And then of course there's the fact that we've had, I'm not sure how many years running Bellevue friendlies with Union Omaha. Yep. It kind of goes to show that not only the fact that they're looking there for trialists or at least possible players, but also just that they're willing to put people out there to try and get that experience, even if they are just a sponsor. But even then, sponsors are cool.
Yep. And one of those players here, Caden Simpson, this one, he's a goalkeeper, and I have a special place in my heart for goalkeepers because I started my soccer career late in life, and about the only skills I had at my feet were goalkeeping skills of just clear the ball and get it out of there. So this is Caden Simpson. He is a freshman at Bellevue University. He should be going into his sophomore this year. He actually came out of Westside High School. So here's a little bit that I had to talk to with Caden. All right, so Caden Simpson.
Yep.
We are a goalkeeper, right? Where are you currently playing?
I currently play at Bellevue University.
So what drove you out here to this tryout? Why'd you want to be a part of Lenoma?
Last summer I got an opportunity to play summer, which was really good. And I think speaking with Mark and having him at the training sessions for Bellevue University, I already knew I wanted to play in the summer again this year. But knowing I know the coaching staff and I know how they run a program and I know how they train and play, I really want to make sure I put myself in the best environment. And obviously, Lenoma is big on local guys and big on local environment. So with Mark and the locality of it, I really wanted to join.
Absolutely, and you are a local kid, right? You've been here your whole life, born here, raised here, or
Well, I'm from Arizona, but moved here when I was 10, so I call myself I'm from Omaha.
how would you describe the just the atmosphere of being around the club? Just what Coach is doing, what Harry and Jordan are doing with Lenoma.
Well, first of all, they've Harry and Jordan have been very welcoming, and everybody's coming up with a smile, shaking hands, and I think that this is the perfect environment to be in between coaches and just overall management staff. I mean, all the way down to Rob. Like everybody's local and everybody loves Omaha. Everybody loves the area, which is great.
Yeah, and that's what we want in a club. Caden, good luck to you, and thanks for coming out.
Look forward to seeing you soon.
Yep. So that was Caden Simpson, goalkeeper, and again the same things that everyone knows each other. Everyone loves Omaha. Everyone loves the area. Piqued a little bit of my interest there because we had a couple of years there with a great Arizonan turned Omahan for a bit, and JP Skeers, and that was kind of the first thing I thought of was that Omaha to that Arizona Omaha connection. I love it. But yeah, so it looks like we got the same themes going on throughout.
Oh yeah, definitely. It's funny because especially like with a lot of people like I've met personally here, is just like a lot of people move to Omaha, like whether it be funny enough my mother or anyone else that like it's like good friends with in Parliament, either from like Iowa, Maine, etc., whatnot. And whether you are from here or you moved here, a lot of people are just happy with the area. They think it's great. Definitely something that they didn't expect sometimes. So
Yep. And myself being a transplant as well, originally from the South, kind of the Arkansas, Mississippi, kind of Texas area, and I'm finding the same things up here too. Is it's not a terrible place to be. It's not a terrible place except when you have 90-mile-an-hour straight line winds with a random blizzard that comes through. Right, we're not used to that. But yeah, there's a lot of stuff going on, and soccer is just one more of those things that you can see growing in the Omaha area and in the metro.
yeah, absolutely.
So, and with that, unfortunately, I didn't get a chance to get out to the CB captains. I had something come up that night, but most of the conversations I've had with the Brian Locke and the group over at CB captains, and then with Pat Rude, pardon me. So we're hearing the same things from them too. Is there's no big rivalries yet, right? They all know each other. They all talk to each other. They all are trying to do this in collaboration. Have you ever heard of a community where you've got 3 startup teams just going there, but they're all cooperating? None of them are like fighting for fans or fighting for support, and they're no territorial issues. It's just we want to play, and we want everyone to succeed.
It's funny because so I follow a YouTuber called HITC Sevens, and he does like soccer, like more long form journalism, essentially, like current events of what's happening at like smaller clubs, bigger clubs, depending on whatever it is. The one like big story that kind of clicked with the like whole like community thing is like I don't know if this is the correct name. I think I'm gonna get it right. So New Thistle Caledonia, I believe, is the name for the club. Technically, it's a merger of 2 clubs. And the reason why they merged was that when they were one of them was going to eventually be promoted to the Scottish Premier League, they just did not have a big enough stadium. They're like, okay, let's just combine them. Thing is, of course, is that they're crosstown rivals, and no one would ever think, yes, let's combine rival clubs.
Yeah, we're not joining Everton anytime soon. We're not pulling them out. Absolutely,
Everton and Liverpool's a little past
wee
that.
bit, right?
But Everton did build all 3 stadiums in Liverpool.
Fact, I can't deny that one. Yes.
But like, so obviously we're not going to be like merging clubs at this point or anything like that with Omaha, like Midwest Premier League. And I don't expect it to be insane like levels of like hate within these clubs, because I don't exactly think people see it like that. But if we want to joke around in terms of like rivalry, let's just say loser gets Carter Lake.
Nobody wants that. That is enough. What happens if they draw? Do you just we got to split it in half and you take every other day?
I think we can just leave Carter Lake to be the 51st state. How about that?
That'll work. Yeah, we can annex that 51st state. Put a stamp on it there now.
But in all seriousness, no, I'd say it's a great way to at least go about it in terms of like not only realizing that not only it's not just the fact that you're new, it's the fact that there's really no point in doing that, and it's more or less if you collaborate, you're more likely to get like, for example, if you want to do a venue change with one of the clubs, so you can accommodate more, or if you want to like make a certain special request for a certain match, whatever. It's stuff like that that maybe longer down the line those benefits will eventually like bear fruits.
Right. And we are well aware in the Omaha area of how hard it is to get a stadium of your own and how hard it is to get a place to play, and having those partners there where you can rely on them to go, hey, we can't get this, but we can take Sporting Kansas City to Morrison or to Caniglia. Sorry, it was Caniglia on a very beautiful night, and to see that all of the clubs in there might have that opportunity to say, you know what, you can come over and use my stadium. I get something's going on there, and have that that ability the show can go on.
Yeah.
So definitely looking forward to that. And speaking of stadiums, we did get an announcement out of CB Captains that they will be playing over at Lewis Central, as one of the high schools over there in Council Bluffs. I know there was a little bit of a worry for a little bit amongst some people and some of the fans that they wouldn't actually get to be in Council Bluffs this year. But they actually do. They will be over there in Council Bluffs, able to put their flag over there and say this is the Iowa part of the metro.
Yeah. In terms of Lewis Central, it's a pretty good high school. I remember playing basketball there for basketball tournaments and whatnot. But I'd say it's a pretty good venue. Like I mean, it's funny because like we say, oh, we hate football lines, but at this level, I'm going to say any venue works. So
Any venue that's not exorbitantly expensive, where you're charging massive prices for tickets or anything else like that. Yeah, I'll take that as a win. Absolutely.
but yeah, and even then, most high schools are pretty serviceable for that stuff. So I'm not going to complain.
Yep. And so that kind of wraps up that piece. Second piece of news we got out, though, is that we had, as we kind of alluded to, Lenoma FC has put out their schedule. And we can talk about that here in a second. But the big news was that the conference alignment. For a long time, it looked like they were going to go into the Gateway South and start looking at teams in maybe in Missouri and stuff like that. And lo and behold, we get a Gateway North conference. And here's kind of what the Gateway North is going to look like amongst all of the teams. You see that we've got CB Captains there in Council Bluffs. You see we got AFC Omaha and Lenoma, and then Warrior FC in Everly, Iowa. We got Cedar Rapids Inferno over in Cedar Rapids, Pearl City in Muscatine, and the Southeast Sports Academy there in Burlington. All of it looking like it's somewhere between 2 and 3 hours at the most for an away day. What was your reaction when you saw the conference alignment here?
Well, funny enough, so I'm in the Discord with Tom Franklin, Soccer Zombie, whatnot. So he's big on St. Louis stuff, whatever. We were talking about how this would work, and it sounded like that they were planning on doing like a split within the division for like conferences and whatnot. And it kind of made sense because St. Louis has like 4 clubs in the area, along with Columbia, Missouri as well. But in terms of like overall travel, it makes it a hell of a lot easier instead of just like having Omaha clubs go to St. Louis or St. Louis clubs going to Northwest Iowa. And that's kind of like the big thing with the Midwest Premier League in terms of the media I've consumed, whether it be like the president, commissioner, or whatnot. And that was kind of like, oh, yeah, that makes sense. Have the Iowa and Nebraska teams together. That'll definitely not create any rivalries or discord with that. But no, in all seriousness, though, you can probably make it a 5-hour away day at the longest for the eastern edges of Iowa. At least from where we are at. If you're in Des Moines, you're probably a little bit better. But
yeah, Des Moines, right there in the center of it. And unfortunately, one of the most boring drives that I've ever had is that 2-hour trip from here to Des Moines. But it is only 2 hours. And there's a lot of stuff to do over in Iowa once you get to where you're going. So
yeah. I can definitely agree with that. But the 2 hours after Des Moines to get to Iowa City is not much better either. So
Fair enough. Um, so that's what it looks like for the conference alignment. What we're seeing here now, and based on the Lenoma FC, which I don't have able to share, but I am going to kind of look at it and read it to you guys. It looks like it's going to be 10 games, and there's 7 teams in the conference, so there's going to be 2 teams that they only play once. I'm not generally a fan of not having a home and away for each one, but we're starting off on May the 9th, Friday, May the 9th. They're going to be at Captain's FC. So the lighthouse is going to have to go towards the boat this time instead of the boat going towards the lighthouse. And then 9 days later on Sunday, May 18th, they're going to get the reverse fixture immediately. So they're going to get the captains out of the way within the first two sessions. And then on Saturday, May 31st, they're going to be playing at AFC Omaha, which that is listed to be at Morrison Stadium, which you mentioned is Creighton's home pitch. So right there in the first 3 matches, they're going to be taking care of their local rivals immediately.
yeah, I'd say that's probably a decent way to at least start the season, make it so a little bit easier for planning, I guess. But at the end of the day, you gotta play them eventually.
Mhm.
Why not make it at least towards the end, maybe, or towards the beginning, depending on how you want to do it. But in terms of the schedule, that's kind of one of the big things that I've noticed with a couple other schedule releases, as well as in the St. Louis slash Southern area for the conference as well. It seems like 10 games is pretty much the standard. And at least you play everyone at least once, I'd say. That's kind of like a
Mhm.
big thing, I'd say, for at least keeping it towards the traditional soccer
Yeah.
format.
Yeah.
And also just 10 games. More than that is kind of hard sometimes. I know the USL League 2 typically does 10 to 12, even if you have a larger conference as well.
Yeah, and especially because the Gateway Conference Championship here is listed for Sunday, July 27th. And when you think about where a lot of these players are coming from, where they are in their development, they're going to be getting back on campus, back to their colleges, within the next month after that conference championship. And that's just the conference championship. That's not necessarily any Midwest Premier League championship or further playoffs that go on. And then with this being the level that it is at amateur, further on through the season, through the end of the year, they'll have the opportunity to do U.S. Open Cup qualifying and any of those types of things. So understandable why the season is kind of shaped the way it is, I think.
Yeah. Actually, I got a quick question on my end,
Yeah.
and this is something that I've kind of tried to look at, but I don't think Midwest Premier League, do they do like an entire league championship, or they do just division champions?
I'm not sure if they do the entire league championship, but I do know that U.S. Open Cup qualifying has been mentioned, and I would assume that there is something within the league. If it's not a true championship, I would assume there's something in the league there. That is something that we're going to learn as we get to know the Midwest Premier League. And since you brought that up, the Midwest Premier League broke away from the UPSL
Yeah.
just a few years ago, so it's still kind of nascent in its evolution development. This is only the 5th year. 2020, I think. So this is 5 years on, and they're still trying to figure out how to make it sustainable, how to make it interesting, but also give those developmental opportunities where they can go and qualify for U.S. Open Cup, play against some of those professionals. So that's absolutely one of those things that we will be learning on the fly. Kind of is what exactly does this look like?
Yeah. I'd say that's definitely one of the big things too, because I mean, anyone that has traveled from, or actually, scratch that, I definitely done that. I have traveled from Omaha to Gary, Indiana, in a single drive. It's not
Mhm.
fun drive. Uh, and in terms of like doing that for like soccer teams and all that, it's an entire big like debacle. Travel's expensive, unfortunately,
Yep.
especially in this country.
Yes, it
Uh,
is.
but like Open Cup qualifying, I'd say that's probably one of the big things that they will definitely have to answer that question eventually. But also, it's a fun like opportunity. And everyone that has played in the Open Cup or even just watches Open Cup knows that whether you're an amateur team, just qualifying is a feat in itself.
Yeah. And some amateur teams can pull in famous USMNT ringers to go and play against their 2 hours away rival. So I mean it's
Hey,
worth
they're
it for
doing
them.
it again. They're running it back.
Yep, and it's the passion, and that's why as many jokes as we made about that match being a ringer, when you can pull people back, it's because the cup matters, the passion matters, and the sport matters, and that's what we want to see out of these clubs anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah. So for any of the other information on the schedules as they get released and such not, MidwestPL.com is the league's website. LenomaFC.com, you can find those guys there. And then all three, AFC Omaha, Lenoma FC, and CB Captains, you can find on Instagram, Facebook. You can find them on that other site. That's the other social media site. We're still trying to get people over to Blue Sky, but it is what it is. You go where you get the engagement. But yeah, any of those places where you want to try to find them, that opportunity is there. So with that's kind of what we got until the Midwest Premier League season kicks off. So let's go ahead and focus on one now that is actually in season, and the Omaha Kings and the Major Indoor Soccer League. Omaha Kings have just come off a winning trip to Chicago, another winning trip for an Omaha team to Chicago. Go figure that one, right? Last time out, MLIS action, they went to 9-8 on February 23rd. That win over PAO Chicago in Chicago actually kept them in fourth place and in a pretty decent position to continue to push for the playoffs with 4 games left in the season. We had a hat trick from Manny Lira. Leonidas Mejia had a brace, and they never trailed, but it was one of those matches where they'd get up 1 or 2 goals, and then all of a sudden, PAO Chicago would come back and have the deficit cut to 1. So it looked like kind of an excited game. Did you get a chance to watch this one at all?
No, I've been really bad about watching the streams this year. I watched the first couple of matches, whatnot, but I think I just like whether it be I'm doing stuff or I'm just tired because it's on the weekend and I work in the mornings on Saturdays, whatnot. But I always try to get the scores, look at how it looks like, whatnot. But in terms of like overall like away days or even just like the Kings' performances this season, it's very interesting because like in previous seasons they've been very like uh, how do I describe it? Let's just say on their game, I'd say like they've been very good, whatnot. This is kind of like an off year for them in a lot of ways. They're usually not like in fourth place or like losing as much as they usually do.
Yeah, and speaking of, we'll throw up the standings here, so we can see that once I get rid of that little tab right there, we've got a team from Cleveland that's actually winning something. Not named the Cavaliers, because I know the Cavaliers are doing pretty well in the NBA this year. But yeah, we've got Cleveland, Amarillo, Toronto, and then you've got Omaha. And one of the first things you notice is we thought our game distribution was bad in USL 1. 9 games played for Cleveland, 6 for Amarillo, 10 for Toronto, 8 for Omaha, and 5 for PAO Chicago. So they have the same number of losses as the number 5 team, but they've played 3 more games and they've won those games. And yeah, you can see goal differential there of a +10. Their home and away split is kind of middling, where we're talking about teams that in Major League Indoor Soccer was pressing for league championships here as the number 1 and 2 team, and we see them kind of in the middle of the pack this year.
Yeah. And I don't want to like be the guy that like, oh, everyone's getting old on the team, but like there are definitely a couple of veterans on there. I know these guys personally, whatnot. They follow me on Instagram. I follow them as well. And it's not so much the fact that they don't have youth; they have plenty of young guys, plenty of that. But I think it's just the fact that it's like once you like have some guys come in, some guys go out. It's one of those times where like you can't quite keep up that performance season after season sometimes.
Yeah, and you're not talking about a league where for people who are familiar with outdoor soccer and everything else, and you get your 3 to 5 substitutions or whatever it is, and the team you've got on the pitch, you're constantly refreshing the legs of the players out there, so your depth is constantly tested throughout the course of the game and throughout the course of the season.
Yeah, I can definitely attest to that whenever these games go to overtime, whether it be Kings or the Queens, like. Going that extra 15 minutes possibility is just sometimes gut wrenching in itself.
So we're and once again, we're not looking at the 3-2s it's a complete shootout if you have a 4-4 draw. We're seeing games that are ending 9-8. Double digit goals is not out of the realm of the possible for most days. So it's constant back and forth action that you're seeing, and the constant running back and forth, and you're not going to have a low block, and you're just going to shut people out. They're going to get a chance to score, and you have to be able to match that energy and get back at them.
Yeah. As an indoor player, occasionally I can definitely agree with that. I wish I could do a low block all the time, but I can't do that. Especially with the people I play with, I'm the one that has to be running.
Yeah. So if you see the games played here, we got those that number of games played. My leading scorer here for the Omaha Kings. We'll go ahead and kill this one here. My leading scorer there, he's got 19 goals, 2 assists in those 8 games that they've played. Leonidas Mejia there. We talked about him having a brace in the last game, but yeah, 21 goal contributions there. And then Manny Lira has 14 goals, 7 assists, 21 goal contributions. You're just firing it at net, and it's going in a lot.
Yeah, I mean that's kind of indoor soccer as it is. If you're hot, you're definitely going to stay hot. You're going to have Erling Haaland levels of scoring, but not quite there in terms of comparisons. But
yeah, I'm sure you meant Mo Salah, but we'll forgive you this time.
If it makes you feel better, I do think Mo Salah should win the Ballon d'Or this year. So
I would appreciate it. We got to finish off the league title there first. But the other oddity, getting back to the Omaha Kings, the other oddity about indoor soccer is the idea of the penalty box, similar to what you have in hockey. This game had some penalties. We had 11 penalties total between the two. Omaha had 5 penalties for 13 minutes, and for those of you familiar with hockey, it is a 2-minute or 5-minute penalty split. So you can take that for what it is. And then, but PAO had 6 penalties for 22 minutes, and there were 2 5-minute penalties in the fourth quarter there for one player for diving and for simulation and and those types of penalties. So it looked like it got a little chippy and it got a little bit of attitude going there with 2 teams that are kind of fighting for the supremacy in the middle of the pack there.
yeah, I don't think I've actually heard about that with at least Kings games that I've watched. Like we've definitely had some testy games in previous years for the Kings, but I don't think I've ever heard someone like intentionally diving like that.
Yep. And thankfully, that was a Chicago guy that they caught doing and diving and doing those types of things. So simulation's a thing. USL, take note. Simulation's a thing. But yeah, it's kind of fun to watch. And it's a good time out there. You're going to see some high scoring stuff, and the Kings are making their final press here to really get into that last bracket of the playoffs and just get in, baby, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I'd say like especially with how well the Kings have played in the last couple of years, they've been in the playoffs, made it to the finals, whatnot. I'd say more than anything, just keeping at that level, or at least trying to get at that level, even if it's not quite at the level they're expecting at it. I'd say that's the goal at the end of the day. It's to compete. It's to be the best team that they possibly can, regardless of whether they are the best team in the league or the worst team in the league.
Yeah. And always be entertaining and always be for the community. That's what these clubs are about.
Yeah.
So our next opportunity to see those guys is actually Saturday, this coming Saturday, March 8th, 7:30 p.m. against the second place Amarillo Bombers. And one of the good things about the Kings and Queens this year, they got Baxter Arena.
Yeah.
So they are playing at a very nice facility that was built for basketball, built for hockey, built within the last decade for UNO, and they've been able to get in there, and it's a great venue to go and see indoor soccer.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It's funny because like people will often talk about in Omaha, like, oh, we have a lot of arenas. Maybe it's too much. I'd say it's just the right amount for what we use them for, especially for UNO. UNO is not the big university on campus, even though it's part of the Nebraska system. It oftentimes loses out to UNO and even Creighton for that stuff, but it's still a great facility, I'd say, especially for what they do for basketball and hockey. And if it's for soccer, I'm definitely going to be there. So,
yep. And as you start getting into the spring and everything else, right next to a pretty brand new baseball softball complex that they have, like the sports scene, not just soccer, is growing there, and they're putting money towards these facilities. If only we could get a stadium of our own.
I don't fault anyone for trying to build a stadium like that, especially in any time for that matter. when you're a university, it's a little bit easier, but at the same time, it's always the bureaucratic stuff. So
Yep. Always, especially when you've got a public university, and budgets and fundings on public university is always a key issue. But if you can make the case that it's going to help the university, a lot of times you'll get the money for it.
yeah,
Right. So again, Baxter Arena. And now, this year, though, we talked about the Kings' history. This year, we have the Omaha Queens, and this is really the team that we kind of want to spotlight tonight, and talk a good bit about what it means to have the Omaha Queens there with us in the area, not just for soccer, but for women's soccer, and doing pretty well in the women's soccer realm. So they are not in MLIS; they are in MASL Women,
yeah,
which is again, it's a new league. They are one of the debutante, one of the founding members of this league that just started play, and it's been really good. It's been really competitive.
yeah. Props to MASL. They've been kind of like the big dogs when it comes to indoor soccer for the longest time. Uh, but also just like having that like opportunity. It's not just the fact that like, oh, we have the NWSL, we have the USL Super League now. It's also having opportunities like indoor soccer, uh, and also the fact that not only the fact that the Kings organization wanted to do that pretty much within like their first couple years of having that, but also um, doing it when it's their very first year in a brand new venue that you just were able to get into as
Yeah.
well. So
Yeah, and I know Manny and Natalie running Veal, those guys that run the Omaha Kings and Omaha Queens have done a really good job of settling into the new home, and really getting out the Omaha Queens as best as they can. Their marketing has been on par with the Omaha Kings. They have not been a second fiddle at all. They are a true partner with the Kings, not just an afterthought.
oh yeah, I can absolutely agree with that. And it's funny because when I went to my first Omaha Queens game this year, I don't remember if it was the second home game or if it was the first one, but I went there, whatnot. It was very fun with my mother, and she's a huge soccer fan. She loves women's soccer, and I didn't. I'm not 100% sure this is a fact, but I'm pretty sure it's pretty dang close.
Mm-hmm.
But the last time you had any semi-pro professional women's team of any kind in Omaha was probably 2011 when the U.S. women's national team had their friendly against Sweden at Morrison.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not 100% sure this is a fact, but I can't think of any other instances of a women's team playing in Omaha.
Right. Not at that level, and to think how far we've come, I don't think you could possibly get them to play at Morrison now. As big as the U.S. women's national team is, and as many fans as they would draw and everything else, it's no slight against Morrison. It's just the venue would not be big enough for the number of people that want to come see it. And the rise of women's soccer is readily apparent, and you see that also, like, even with a team like the Queens that is starting kind of out at the bottom and new, you're getting the fans in, and you're getting people wanting to go see more of those.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Like with Morrison, this is before. So when the U.S. women's national team was here, this is before Morrison had a couple other renovations to expand its capacity for seating and whatnot. So this is back when they didn't have a huge scoreboard. Most of the place was grass. They would just have the maiden stand, whatnot. And I'd say with the Queens, it's nice to have that opportunity now. I know there's talk about other possible teams, whether it be for Union Omaha once they get a stadium built, but just doing it now, I'd say, is probably the best thing you can do.
And the Queens can stake that claim that they are the first in this generation, in this era of women's soccer, to come in and be a full professional women's team of any sort. So very good claim to fame for them, and they're carrying the torch very well and starting this all off. But we did discuss a little bit that indoor soccer has some weird rules. So before we get into that, let's talk a little bit about what indoor soccer is, some of the odd rules, some of the pace of play. What are you looking at, and what are you expecting when you see these women are about to go out onto this really small in comparison pitch and play a fast-paced four-quarter game?
So the main thing whenever you like play indoor soccer is the fact that like there are like you're definitely got to be more offensively minded compared to like traditional 11v11. You will typically have two out and out defenders, but everyone else on there for the 3 or 4, depending on how it's formatted, is probably going to be attacking. They're going to be shooting. They're going to be passing, whatnot. And then of course the fact that I'd say it's probably a bit more closer to basketball in terms of like its pace, except you're using your feet and shooting towards a goal.
Mhm.
Uh, uh, and then it's just the emphasis not just on being quick, but also trying to find more passing angles than you probably would with other soccer venues, etc. Uh, I'd say my favorite part is the fact that you can't really do long balls. There
Mhm.
are opportunities you can do that, particularly in like breakaway situations, but you really need to be quick. You need to be fast. You cannot wait for the ball. You need to go towards it, and you need to be decisive with it.
Yeah. The fact that you can have a keeper that can play up close to midfield and still be able to get back for to take away those chip shots and take away those long shots. And the goal is a lot smaller, so even at that level, if you're a little bit off, you're not going to hit the goal. So you can't take as much of advantage. You have to kind of walk it in a little bit and try to find that angle.
Yeah,
The
absolutely.
Yeah, the discussion of basketball too. When I first saw and I first started playing indoor years ago, it reminded me of, you said, soccer obviously, and basketball, but really hockey. Like, there are a lot of hockey elements into it. Most notably, the 5-on-5, the possibility to pull the goalie for an extra attacker, the idea of the shootout penalties, vice the true traditional. I'm just going to line up and we're going to take a penalty kick. If you can think of the shootouts in the same way that NHL has a shootout,
Yeah,
depending on foul accumulation, things like that, you get that. And then the penalties. Like I said, the first time I ever played and got a blue card as a keeper, I'm like, what the hell is a blue card? And then he says that's 2-minute penalty, and then I start to go to the box. And like, no, no, you don't serve it. Like, confused the crap out of me until I equated it to hockey, right? Because
yeah.
it's a lot of the same rules.
Oh yeah, absolutely. That was kind of like one of those weird things because initially when we were watching the Kings, I was like, all right, is this going to be 3 periods? Is this going to be 4 quarters? Whatnot. Eventually, we
Mhm,
had figured out, but
mhm.
and then we're like, oh, it's a blue card, and then it's
Yep,
just like, oh, okay, let's just quick go to the league website. Let's find the rules. How
yep,
does this work? And it explained itself pretty much as it was. Oh,
yep,
it's more closer to hockey,
yep.
just with a little bit of soccer twist with it as well. And then, of course, there's the fact that there is no offside at all. So
Mhm,
that's
yep.
another big thing.
No, but they do have the three-line pass
Yes,
to
they do.
keep you from just snowbirding down there and waiting for the ball. So if somebody passes it and it goes in the air across the 3 lines that are there between the 2 goal lines, it's called back, and it's similar to icing
Yeah.
would be in hockey.
Yeah.
Yep.
We've been debating whether we should call it icing or grounding, depending on how you wanted to interpret it. But
Yeah.
uh, it's rules like that that like, oh, it kind of makes sense in the like trying to encourage offensive play, and that's kind of one of the big things with indoor soccer. It's not trying to be, I wouldn't say not trying to be strategic, but definitely trying to be more encouraging of that offensive, trying to
Mhm.
get those goals, trying to rack up the scoreboard.
Right. And it's still strategic. It's a different kind of strategy. You have to think about, essentially, how do I play basketball or hockey with my feet?
Absolutely,
Right.
and that's kind of like my 11v11 brain because like if I'm thinking about it with that idea, it's definitely not going to translate well to indoor soccer, and that was kind of like one of those things when I first started watching indoor soccer. It was very much okay. So this is not like playing out the back or trying to find channels. Sometimes you just need to like be more decisive, find something quicker than you probably would otherwise, and don't
And,
let the play develop. You make the play.
yep. And like you were saying, similar, you make the play, similar to basketball. A lot of times it's about isolation. It's about the movement, drawing someone away so you can take on and beat your man in the dribble or your woman in the dribble, and push that forward and at least get a shot off. And maybe it bounces, caroms around, ricochets off something, and finds its way to a striker, or goes in.
Yeah, and that's actually one of my favorite things too, because in hockey, you can use your goalkeeper as kind of like a offensive person to like get something going. But with like indoor soccer, you can use them as like a third defender or a sweeper, and use them to actually get more passes as well as have an extra man up there as well.
Yep.
So I like that a lot more.
Yep. And with that, the skill set, there's definitely a different skill set, and a different type of athlete that plays indoor soccer, but you can definitely see where some of those skills would translate. So especially when we're talking about the Kings, but in the future with the Queens and everything else, there is still a recruiting pipeline out of indoor soccer to outdoor.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And a little bit on the reverse as well, because I know I've played with former Union Omaha players indoor soccer as well. Uh, but even then, I'd say like if you can play soccer at any level, I'd say you can probably play at any venue, whether it be indoor or outdoor. Obviously, you have to do a little bit of adjusting. I know I did that occasionally, whether I played indoor or out there, but eventually just finding what works for you as well as getting used to the pace is probably the best thing you can do. Uh, and I'm pretty sure I know, I could be wrong there, but there are definitely a couple players for the Queens at least that play for UNO for the women's program there as well.
Yep. Yeah, and again, you'll still see them kind of developing and kind of learning their trade right alongside some of the older heads and some of the veterans that are out there. So specifically, now that we've kind of covered some of the weirdnesses of play and everything else, let's really get into the Queens. So the Queens this year are actually doing really well. They're in second place overall. But one of the other weirdnesses that you find with indoor is they're coming off this last weekend a back-to-back that you see some of those nights in the NHL or hockey or something like that where okay, we're going to play in one place one night and then we'll play a back-to-back game not far down the road. So this last weekend the Queens took a trip to Wichita. First off, they took on the Wichita Arrow and they ended up beating them 10-7. And that was a pretty good match, but they ended up pulling away kind of there towards the end. And then less than 24 hours later, at the end of that, they play ICT Aztecs, and they just get housed. It's a 9-3 match, and while it was 2-1 going into halftime, it wasn't there for them, and they just let it completely slip away and never really got close to the Aztecs there. So that's another thing. You see the back to backs, but that's that was uncharacteristic of the Queens this year.
Oh yeah, I definitely agree with that. But also, back to back is kind of hard, especially when you're on the road like that. And even when you're at home, I know the Kings have had a couple back to back nights, just for like double headers with the same team, where they would play at like noon one day and then they'd play 8 o'clock the next day.
Yeah.
So it is what it is. I'd say like getting a single win out of that road trip, I'd say is probably not the worst thing, but definitely one of the better ways you could go about it. You could think about it as, given the circumstances, we got the most we probably could out of that situation. So,
And so what we're looking at now, and I will go ahead and pull up the standings as we see them here. So what we're looking up now is a similar kind of deal with what's going on with the Kings, where you see a lot of disparity in the games played, a little bit closer this time. But Omaha Queens, they're in ninth or in second with 9 games played, 6 wins, 3 losses. Second to the Wichita Lady Luck, who they have that overtime win kind of in their pocket, or overtime loss. I'm sorry, to take care of that. But then you see the Aztecs that they lost to that last game have only lost one of their 5 games this year, but they are still sitting only at 5. So even though they're at third place, they have a very good shot at overtaking the Queens and at least getting into second. And the Queens have an outside shot with 1 game remaining in the season, very outside shot to possibly get into that first place. So that's kind of what we're looking at the standings, and then mentioning that last game that is going to be the ICT Aztecs at Baxter here as the first game of the Kings Queens doubleheader here on Saturday, March 8th at 4 p.m. So we're looking at a possible revenge game and handing one of their major rivals a loss here.
yeah, I'd say there's probably no better way to go about it in terms of depriving a possible rival of ability to overtake you. Uh, as we all love to do. I certainly love doing that with Madison. Uh,
Yep.
But I would say, like, especially with such a small / close league as it is, uh, you're playing these teams multiple times. You are oftentimes like neck and neck more than anything, and especially with how the season started out, knowing that the Queens lost on their first away match against Wichita Luck and then won an overtime match against them the next time around. I'd say that's like the improvements overall for the team. I'd say like, yeah, they might get beat one time, but they definitely can beat you any day if given the chance. So
Yeah, and especially maybe give them a full day's rest and their sleeping in their own beds and everything else like that. There's a pretty decent shot at them being able to take over and actually beat the Aztecs. The match was not out of hand until they kind of ran out of gas. It looked like towards the end of the first half and then on into the second half there. So as we look at it, I'm going to read off a couple of names here. We've got Erin Noel Clifton, midfielder. She's got 16 goal involvements there, 13 goals, 3 assists. We got a defender that's leading in the goal department. She's got 10 goals, 3 assists, 13. She is the number 2 on the team in goals. And that's another unique piece about our arena soccer is your defenders are just as powerful, just as capable.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I'd say my favorite thing is the fact that like defenders are definitely one of those like extra pieces in the toolkit that you can use for offense, especially if you're not like able to break down the defense because a lot of times it's really compact. You're not going to get a decent pass. There's a lot of deflections. A lot of times that's kind of hard to do. But nice thing is that like if you can space it right, you can get a good outside shot if you're a defender, and if you can hit those, oftentimes you can't stop those. So.
Right. And there's a lot bigger post if you think about those rebounds off the post and outdoor that you've got an entire wall back there that if you're slightly off you're going to get that rebound, and it's very likely it could pop to somebody else in the center, so you at least get an assist off of that if not it actually going in a goal. So those contributions are there to be had for the defenders.
Yeah, I think the best way you can think about it is that like yeah, defender is a designation. It is not what you do all the time, for sure, especially in indoor soccer.
Yeah. Total football, indoor total football. Everyone is everything at once, right?
I mean, I don't see how you else could do it any other way. You have so few people, and you gotta put everything in there.
So, and then on to our goalkeeper appreciation part of this. We're looking at Emma Tui. She's 3-1, 60 shots against, only 22 goals allowed, 5.27 goals against average there. She's made 38 saves. And then she is actually second on the team in all of that to Kylie Comba, who's she's got 74 shots against, 29 goals against, a 5.87, but she's made 45 saves. So you hear the 5.87, 5.27, the team as a whole, goals for, is averaging 8.1 goals per match. So it kind of tells you how they're overwhelming teams. And so even when you have a lopsided loss like they had this last time, they're still performing and they're still, out shooting their opponent the way they're supposed to be.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I'd say obviously, I'd say the overall trend is you want to score more goals than you let in. I'd say that they've kind of hit that good rhythm with it overall. And the fact that you have 2 very good keepers to rotate out of as you need to, whether you want to give one rest or injury time, whatnot. So, and I think that's kind of like the big things with like indoor soccer. Like it's draining. It's definitely draining in a different way compared to like traditional soccer, how we see it, whatnot. Certainly a lot quicker, a lot faster, and yeah, you may get a sub for 5 minutes, but you're back out there another 5. And just having that ability to just switch out people as you need it is probably the best thing you could do.
Yeah, or just wait until somebody gets a penalty and then you're out there because not all the penalties. That's the other thing. Not all the penalties are power play penalties.
Nope.
Sometimes you're just going to the box and you're allowed to replace that player out on the pitch. So there's ample opportunity. You're not sitting there kind of the way that a team like Union Omaha has been, where you've got a distinct number 1 keeper, and every now and then your number 2 gets minutes. You're actually able to split that time.
Yeah. I'd say that's probably like the best way you can think about it too. Like no one's position is set. No one is a starter automatically. Everyone is a starter. Everyone's a sub. Everyone is whatever they need to be.
So aside from on the pitch, we know that they're doing well. We know that this is the last chance to see them, and this is another one. I'm not 100% sure if they do a playoffs, but if they do, the Queens are definitely fighting for a playoff spot when you consider a league with only 6 teams. So if there is a playoff in there, if not, this could be the last chance. Why do you love going out? What about the environment? What about the atmosphere? What about the whole experience do you love about going to see a Queens match?
Oh God. So I'd say the main thing is the fact that like you just invite everyone that you know that already goes to a soccer match just to go to another soccer match. And yeah, it's not like when I do parliament activities or just doing anything, like I go this way, that way, whatever. It's definitely a little bit more casual,
Mhm.
not as involved, if I have to put it that way, in terms of like setting up. But it's always like it's fun as is. We enjoy every like pass, goal,
Mhm.
just doing it as we usually do and trying to bring the energy to the game. Uh,
Yep.
and
And
that's kind of what
yeah.
we have to do anyway. It doesn't matter whether it's what we usually do or whether we're doing something new.
Right. And yeah, it's a lot better for the sound. A lot like the cheering. You can hear what's going on in the pitch. You can hear what's going on in the stands. A little bit better than when you're in a traditional outdoor arena as well.
Yeah. And then another I'd compliment is the fact that I do have a dedicated DJ. I don't remember his name, but he's very good at what he does.
Yeah.
Uh, that's always a nice thing too about indoor soccer is that you
Mhm.
kind of have that little bit of American tweak to it when you have cheers or music playing during games, kind of like basketball and hockey games, whatnot. That's honestly one of my favorite things about American sports when it comes to like indoor winter sports.
Mhm.
Uh, Even if it's more the traditional stuff or the untraditional, like it's very fun because it's either constant noise, constant
Yeah.
party, or just like sitting back if you want to be casual.
Yeah, we are the country that gave you jock jams, and that is readily apparent even throughout now. I got to give credit too to the DJ there in Wichita as I was watching the last game for the Queens, and there was not a quiet moment, and there was always a song going on, and there was always some encouragement going on, getting people pumped up, not the goal in this minute by this. It was hey, there was a goal, and that was the assist, and calling them out by their nicknames and stuff like that. And you see a lot more of that than you do at some of your traditional soccer matches.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Same thing here in Omaha.
Yep.
The DJ they have, he's been doing it for a couple years now, even before Baxter or whatnot. So he knows what he's doing. He's great at what he does for that.
So the thing I guess we're really telling people is get out to Baxter if you're in the local Omaha area. It's as you can see, if they're starting at 4 p.m. and the Kings are starting at 7:30, discounting any potential overtimes or anything like that, you're looking at 4 15-minute quarters. It's not going to be a football game 15-minute quarters. It's going to be more on par with that 2 hours that you're going to spend watching a regular soccer game. It's just broken up into 4 15-minute periods and getting out there and doing that. But they do have live streams to some varying degree of reliability, but they do have a live stream.
Yeah.
And what do you think of the broadcasts on the live stream so far?
It's been interesting, whether it be like Kings or Queens.
Mhm.
I know there was the very first Kings match that I watched that was on live stream. They had a very annoying repeating ad.
Mhm.
And that was because they were away at Colorado at the time. But for
Mhm.
the actual like quality for the MASLW, at least in Baxter, they've had some really good like camera angles and whatnot. And it also comes with the venue as well. The venue is definitely made for that. It
Yeah.
has those professional like spots for that stuff, so it looks really good.
Yeah, and so absolutely going on to the website, if you go to omahaqueensfc.com or omahakingsfc.com, it'll have a link there that says watch live. It'll have a countdown to when the game is. It'll have a link that says watch live. You can go there. And if you can't get out to Baxter this weekend, I absolutely recommend that people go and at least watch that because they're going to hear, from what I understand, they're going to hear a familiar voice. This time, he is not going to be in the most attractive of terms telling you about the rules and regulations of Warner Park. He's actually going to be doing play-by-play, and that is the man, the myth, legend, Owen Godberson, voice of the Owls. There is going to be calling these matches this weekend, so people are in for a treat. I think if they can tune in and can't get to Baxter.
Oh yeah, I can definitely agree with that. Owen's voice is probably the one thing I associate with Union Omaha more than anything. I hate saying he is the voice because that's kind of a hard thing to do because there are so many other people part of that. But uh,
He is at least the voice of the Modelo corner kick, and we cannot take that away from him.
yeah, I will be. It will be a very sad day when he eventually moves on to bigger and better things. I hope
Yeah.
because I don't think anyone can recreate. I'm going to say this right away. He probably has one of my favorite voices I've ever heard,
Yes.
and I genuinely mean that as a person that loves cartoon animations, and there are some great voice actors out there.
Yes, he absolutely he could be in some of our favorite voice acting spots. He can do play by play. He can do PA. And he is hilarious because his passion. He is doing it as a fan. So when you hear that come out in his voice, so absolutely, if you cannot get to Baxter Arena, look it up on the YouTube. Start getting there because you're going to hear a really good time and somebody that knows the game and is passionate about the game. So. Absolutely. Go check out the Queens. Go check them out. This is the last chance. So, and then we're going to have to wait for a whole nother year to see the Queens in action.
Yeah, I can definitely agree with that. I'd say if you don't go to any soccer games at all, I'd say you're probably missing out. But if you're not going to any ones for the Kings or Queens, I'd say you're definitely missing out for sure.
All right. So with that, the last bit we're going to do and kind of to wrap up the show because we are in Omaha and Union Omaha does exist, and whether people recognize it or not, this is Belt Week, Week 1 Belt Week. We are officially here, Gio. I'm sure you're not listening to this yet because you have no care for Omaha semi-professional soccer or anything else, but that belt has been really handy this winter, lifting all of those trophies that we've got to put in our case. So we start out with a Greenville match, and just to preview the season, we definitely did the definition of we're reloading. So a lot of the core came back, and then a couple of major signings that maybe were off people's radar. Have a former MLS players that have come in and started doing that. And then just today, we picked up, was it Isidro Martinez? I think it was, former Mingo.
Former
So,
Mingo,
yep,
last year he played for Northern Colorado.
yep. Rest in peace, Hailstorm, Northern Colorado. But, once again, we're taking the good bits of the Mingos and bringing them over to the team. So when you heard about all these signings, you saw this, where was your thought process? What did you think when you saw this is the team we're going to have to play with this year?
It's funny because I feel like this is very similar to the 2022 after we won the title in
Mm-hmm.
21 because I don't expect us to win it all again because that's
Mm-hmm.
a very hard thing to do. And the fact that we were able to get 2 shields in a row and also win it all in the playoffs as well, that's a very hard thing to do.
Mm-hmm.
And I do like the mix of like young and old that we've been able to recruit in a very similar manner as before. Because obviously we have Brent Kalman,
Mm-hmm.
MLS veteran at this point.
Yep.
He's probably one of the more well-known guys for Minnesota United. And then, of course, having a player like Kimi Amish, who was just starting his pro career, was with Huntsville City beforehand, whatnot. And it's stuff like that that's like very big. And then, of course, the usual in between of League One veterans or players that we decide to keep. It's very similar, I feel like that.
Yeah. And
But
a wealth
overall,
of riches in some positions.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Thinking wingbacks more than anything,
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
which my favorite position either way, so I can't complain about that.
Yep.
But at the end of the day, I'd say let's get out there, let's play some games, let's see at where we're at before we make any proclamations about winning it all again. Which I have no doubt we'll have a bit of delusion about that at one point or other.
Oh, we always do, right? We're going to win the league until it's obvious we're not. So
absolutely, I have to say that like every year there are definitely high points, there are low points, but there are a lot of high points for sure, and I certainly expect that again.
Sorry, and I know we've had several discussions for those supporters of Union Omaha offline about the schedule. I don't want to get into too much of the consternation of the schedule. How do you feel about starting it with that Greenville rivalry?
I kind of wish it wasn't then because like the thing about like playing Greenville is that like it should be something you look forward to on the calendar, and I don't like the fact that we have to open with that.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, yeah, we can look forward to it, but also it's like one of those things where it's like we don't know where any of these teams are, how they're going to look right away. I want to know where we are beforehand, what the score is, and right now I don't know what the score is.
Yeah, because winning a game now, either for Union Omaha and Greenville, that's 3 points, but it's not the team you're going to face again later in the season.
Oh yeah, absolutely not. And I just have to say one of my favorite matchups was in 2021. Not when we won the league, but the game we lost beforehand in the playoffs to Greenville 1-0. That
Yep.
if you build that game at the very beginning of the season, no one's going to remember it. No one's going to
Yep.
care about it because it's not the same team.
Right. And this year, we're not just looking at Greenville as that major rival, because Greenville's always in it. They've got a great organization. We've got actually, the Mingos are actually competitive and are actually rebuilding. Spokane got scary good. They took that loss in the final personally. I think I keep talking about the forlorn picture I have of Luis Heel and Lee Veidman on the sideline, and like immediately as they're watching the medal celebration, you can see the gears turning, and we're not going to let this happen again. So it's going to be an exciting lead. And then with the new guys coming in to see where they're at and the teams that they're building, there's a lot of really exciting stuff going on that we have to wait until next Wednesday to watch.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's funny because at the same time, I don't want to be the guy that doubts Spokane right away, but I'm going to be that guy that's very much going to say, let's see where this goes, because it's
Mhm.
very easy to win those two games. Yeah, they were against two of the better teams in the league
Mhm.
last year, but I generally want to see that like improvement from Spokane from
Yeah.
last year. And I don't want to say I'm rooting for them, but I generally want them to like go get it and
Mhm.
show it.
Yeah. Yeah, Spokane, and to kind of do a quick mention, Portland Hearts of Pine. I think they are winning that publicity battle that the Mingos have on the merchandise and everything else. But when you really talk about those teams you want to pull for that are not your team, they're really, I think, winning those publicity battles there. Of this is what this team is about, and this is what the community about, and everything else. And they're a couple organizations I think we can really respect within this league.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I'd say I already have a Portland Hearts of Pine kit in my closet right now.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
there are other things in my closet that shall not see the light of day, but
I I've got a Mingo scarf back there. You can see the hailstorm scarf right over there, over my shoulder there. So yeah, I get it.
uh,
Some merch is just really good, and the organizations are worth it.
but I have to give a bit of compliment to Bobby Murphy for finally landing the head coach job he's probably been looking for quite a bit of his career, man.
Yep.
Uh, I cannot give enough praise for him, simply because not only in 2022 we had a little sit down with him with the supporters and whatnot. It's probably one of the best conversations about like soccer in America
Yep.
I've ever heard about. But also the fact that like if you gave anyone that type of experience in lower league soccer and had not had a head coaching job the way he has at this point, I'd be like, how has no one chosen you at this point? How has
Yep.
no one like asked for you? And I'm glad he has that opportunity for sure.
Yep. Similar to how we keep expecting Dom to leave, even though we didn't expect it. We knew Jay was going to move on to bigger and better things there, and the assistant coaches, we've seen them move on to bigger and better things as well. It's just you want to see that out of your guys from a league like USL1. So with the belt week and all of that type of stuff, I'm not going to ask you for a score prediction or anything else, but what do you really want to watch for? What do you want to see for us coming out of the gate for the start?
I want to see I want to see the new players like show that they are playing not just for themselves but also for the club,
Mhm.
and I'm sure there are plenty of them that are like able to do that right away and so on. And it's the first game. It's going to be first impressions are hard to get past sometimes,
Yep.
uh, but I want them all to show that. And they were talking about it on the Who Gives a Hoot pod. If needed, let's make a first half substitute if we need to.
Yep.
Let's not be afraid to make not so much the wrong decisions, but not be afraid to make a decision that is not usual at this point, because it's the big first game of the season.
Yep.
Nothing matters at this point. We'll put it that way.
Yep. And we should see something similar when we go play Flatirons FC in the Open Cup 8 days later on the 20th of March. We'll see that. But unfortunately, those will all be away games. The good news is we've still got the partnership with ESPN Plus, and we're still going to be able to see some of those games. For those local area, though, Omaha Parliament has selected their watch party location for the year. Where are we going to be?
Raskeller. So we're back at Raskeller for
Yep.
the first time since 2021.
Mhm.
One thing I enjoy about at least any German themed restaurant or organization is just simply because I enjoy the food and also the
Yes.
beer a lot of times.
Yep.
But also, like,
Yep.
sounds like they've got their ship in the right order now in terms of like trying to make that stuff work.
Yep.
And we got some pretty decent deals out of it, I'd say, and a pretty
Yep.
decent cooperation for sure. And I'd say that if you're in the area or you have nothing going on, I'd go out for a night.
Yep. And you know, even if you just tangentially like soccer, you'll like the beer, you'll like the food, and you'll like the atmosphere. For those who can't make it to the watch party, I am going to be attempting to do a live watch along there, so you won't see the game by listening to me, but I'm going to at least attempt to get some sort of a watch along there going, so that we can talk and discuss and just be happy that even though it's on a school night. And even though it's an away game, we can still be proud and be happy that USL One is back, and Union Omaha, defending champions, will be back as well.
Yeah, I can definitely agree with that. Unfortunately, I'm not going to be at the watch party. I got work that evening, but I'll definitely be following along as best I can for sure. So,
As we all should be. So, so that's kind of going to wrap it up for what we've got here. Thanks, Braedon, for coming on. I'll say we are going to have you on more often. You are one of the going to be one of the primary collaborators here. We'll be looking for some written stuff as the seasons get on, as the teams start actually playing, and they're all playing about the same time. You'll start to see varying other collaborators and contributors to this project. But the next thing I've got on tap, actually, and this is a breaking news type deal. Sometime next week, I'll be sitting down with AFC Omaha and finishing off the trilogy of the interviews. I'm still waiting for the exact date, but it should be sometime next week that we're sitting out. We'll be able to get that out to everyone and be able to see that. You're always welcome if you want to come in and talk and sit in. By all means, come on in and talk and sit in. But we're going to get you guys familiar with what AFC Omaha is doing, put the spotlight on them, and really get ready for this last month and a half before the MWPL kicks off. And then we'll talk a little bit about what probably has happened at that point, whether or not the belt has left Omaha, or whether or not we've retained it to continue with our trophy case. So be looking for that in the next week. And then any other major news, anything we have happen with the Kings and Queens, we'll be recapping those games. And you can find all that here. Omaha Club Flush will be on Substack, will be on YouTube, and then we'll try to get that out in podcast format if I can figure out the technology. There's a gray in my beard for a reason, so we'll see if we can get that. Braedon, thank you again. Got anything else you want to give out to everyone?
I'd say I got nothing at this point. It's good to be back in soccer season for outdoor at least. So, and it feels nice to be leaving winter. Hopefully, no more blizzards.
Absolutely. Soccer season means that we're kicking the ice balls away, and we're getting the soccer balls on target here. So again, everyone, thank you. Go support local. Go support the community. And it's all about the Omaha clubs. Take care, guys. See you next time.